Hey, what's up, everybody? Hey, what's up? This Chris with Digital REM. Welcome back to Live at Lunch. Live at Lunch, Chris with Digital REM. We're currently reading the book Tools of Titans, and then in this chapter, we're covering the interview with Neil Strauss. If you know, you know. With that being said, Neil Strauss is a author, one of the New York Times bestsellers. And like I said again, if you know, you know. So Neil Strauss. Before we hop into the book, let's go over some housekeeping, what we've been working on as far as Digital REM wise. So Digital REM wise, first and foremost, we are actively proofreading the credit management ebook, the first of the series of 3 ebooks. So that's just deleting items from your credit report. So deleting negative items, inaccurate items, unverifiable items from your credit report. We're proofreading that now, and that will be available by the beginning of next week for the community to download. Boom. If you do not have your digitalrem.com membership, make sure you go to digitalrem.com and get your membership now. It's currently free. So go ahead and get that now while it is free. And if you're having trouble even finding digitalrem.com, don't even know how to spell it, just go to the link in the bio and hit the link tree in the bio, and it'll show you where you can see Dream TV and you can see memberships and things like that, and just hit that button. Make it real simple. And that's one of the things we set up yesterday in regards to moving forward with digitalrem.com. I kind of knocked out all my screens somehow. But yeah, moving forward with digitalrem.com. What else did we work on? Trying to think of it. I know I did a design thing, but I can't think of it right now. Also, this is a shout out or a call out. If you know of anybody who has access to event spaces and are in that industry of event spaces, I'm looking to get into that industry. So with that being said, I would like a place to start to do the live production at the event space or an event space. So really chiming into that industry. So if you know anybody, drop the comment below if you're on IG, and just let me know that way, or reach out to me in DM, whatever the case may be. I have an idea that I want to do moving into the summer. So if you know somebody with some real estate, some commercial real estate, a warehouse or something like that, it doesn't have to be an event space, but it can be a warehouse. It can be some type of loft, some type of old loft, it's just an open floor plan, something like that. Let me know. Drop the link in the bio, and we can have a discussion about that. Boom. In the Atlanta area, by the way. So, boom. What else? Most of the rest of the night we worked on that credit management ebook. If you did see, we created the video that touches on what a credit report is. So we created a 25-second, under 30-second video. We're touching on what a credit report is, leading into why you should, if you don't know what one is, why you should be getting the credit management ebook, so you can get started with at least learning the fundamentals of what credit is and the fundamentals of some form of financial literacy. Put it like that. Boom. All right. And what else do we have going on? So on the production side, we are working on our Twitch, on our Stream Deck. Again, relinking our Stream Deck graphics to, for the Dream TV. So if you're not able to see Dream TV, make sure you go to digitalrem.com, get your membership so you can see Dream TV when we're running live. Boom. Yeah, so in Dream TV we share more of what we're gonna work on, but I think for the live at lunch we're just gonna keep it simple and we'll get right back into the book. So we gave people enough time to fall up in here. We have a few people up in here, and I think as people fall in, they just catch up where they catch up, right? Boom. Let's go. So Neil Strauss, a New York Times bestseller, including The Game and The Truth. Right? So this is a chapter or a section that is titled "Don't Accept the Norms of Your Time." The biggest mistake you can make is to accept the norms of your time. Not accepting norms is where you innovate, whether it's the technology, with books, with anything. So not accepting the norm is a secret secret to really being a success, and changing the world. So again, not accepting the norms, really thinking outside of the box. A lot of people like to throw that term around, like thinking outside the box. I think outside of the box, but do you really? Accepting the norms is not. It limits you as far as what the possibilities could be. Accepting the social norms, accepting the so many different kind of norms in the world. So again, being a trailblazer, being courageous enough to really express yourself fully without the norms being involved. Of course, norms can go into so many different variations of what norms are, and with this quote unquote, I don't like to use the word, but this quote unquote cancel culture now, that's in essence them people trying to force you to accept the norms or accept a version of what they think what they think is I wouldn't say acceptable, but what they perceive is normal or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, there is no normal. Everything is at the end of the day, there is no normal. So live with that mentality, like there is no normal, and really create and engage with the world under the perspective of, because again, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the word, like genuine I can't think of the word, but under the perspective of like a genuine feeling, like genuine gut feelings, like, and not have to rule out like, oh, I feel this way, I feel I want to be this way, but the norm is not to be this way, or I feel I want to do this, but the norm is not to be able to do this, and limiting yourself because you're trying to stay within the norms. And that goes as far as personality wise and technology wise. Like the norms might be everybody else is streaming like this or doing it like this. Well, you putting your own spin on it, like, well, if this can do this and this can do this, how can I tie these together and make this? So really living outside the norms, having fun again. We go back to the chapter before, like at the end of the day, really treating the world like your playground and having fun again, getting back into fun. Like I feel like even I find myself at times having to check myself. Like at times we get so caught up in the how can we create something to bring in customers or bring in more money so we can possibly pay bills or whatever the case may be. But then at the end of the day, that's not really where it's at, because really what you want to do is just have fun, like on the playground again, and really have fun, create, and then it'll attract people because you're just in this form of creation. It's kind of interesting how it goes full circle, like going all the way back to elementary school. Like, just think, for example, there's parallels in this world. Just think, like when you were at recess, I can think of many instances when you're at recess at school, and maybe you and your friends made up a game. Y'all were just having fun. There's no rules to the game. You just made up a game. Y'all made up a game, and then all of the other kids started coming in. They want to play the game too. And then more people just started to come in, and then that turned into a game that y'all all play at recess, because y'all just made something up off of, I wouldn't say off of emotion, but off of just instinct. You just made something up off of instinct and not rules. Like nobody came to you like, oh, you can't. That's not even a game. Y'all can't play like that. And really I'm trying to think of the word, and really getting out of the conditioning, I guess, when we go through high school and go through college and things like that, it feels like you're conditioned to get away from that, just being creative. So really just tapping back into that creativity. Like, don't accept the norms of your time. Like, if it's normal, push back and go with your gut, right? All right, this are related books recommendations for artists, right? Life is Elsewhere by Milan Kundera. I think it's an analogy for that choice we all have in life. Are you going to fulfill your potential, or are you just going to give in to the peer pressure of the moment and become nothing? So I think that really just ties back into what we said before. Like, are you going to accept the norms? Like, when you have an idea to create something, and then people will come to you like, oh, that's impossible, you can't do that, and tell you all the barriers of why you can't do that. Are you going to accept that and fall into the and fall into the peer pressure of the moment and become nothing because you pulled yourself back into the norm? Or are you gonna blast past that and be like, you know what, I'm gonna push back on the norms and, you know, break barriers, break walls? You know what I'm saying? All right, Neil's best purchase of $100 or less, right, is the Freedom app. It's free. In the Freedom app, I don't have it, but I'm gonna just read about it. Right, so it's essentially a mobile app that you can however many minutes of freedom you want, you put in whatever it is, like 120 minutes of freedom, and then you are completely locked off from the internet, no matter what, for that amount of time. As soon as you sit down, he's the author, remember. So as soon as you sit down to write, the first thing I do is put on Freedom, the Freedom app, because if you're writing and you want to research something, this is example, because if you're writing and you want to research something, you'll research something and then get stuck in the clickbait rabbit hole. So you went on the internet to research something, and then you clicked on something else, and clicked on something else, and then ended up on Facebook scrolling the timeline and just wasting time. So this app just cuts you off from the internet completely. But how to get past needing to research something, right? What you can do is save all of the things you want to research. So save them as things you want to research, and just research them when that time expires. So with the time you set, after that time you set on the Freedom app, when that time expires, then you go back in and research what you needed to research, you know, go down the list, and you'll find this so much more efficient, right? This is a quick tip if you're a writer, and you could possibly find this in other areas, not just being writing, right? Neil and I, this is Tim Ferriss speaking. Neil and I and many other writers use TK, that's T as in tank, K as in kangaroo, as a placeholder for things we need to research later. So, for example, he was TK years old at the time. So putting that TK there is like, this is just a placeholder. So after my time expires, I could go back in and research what's, you know, how old this person is, because I replaced it with TK. Why it's a hack? Because if you Control F or do a search, find search on, you know, whatever text document or whatever browser you have open, you do the find and put in TK, there aren't any words that would in the dictionary. Let me just read what they say. This is a common practice, as almost no English words have TK in them except Atkins. Like the Atkins diet, making it easy to use Control F when it's time to batch research or fact check. So again, using that TK as a placeholder, then doing a find, but just put the TK in the find, and all your TKs will pop up within your document, and then you can just go down the line of, you know, what you need to research. Boom, that's a hack. If you are editor or writer or something like that, that's a hack, right? Look, the phone said that's a hack. Yep, I agree. All right, so this is I'm gonna just read the title of the section. Edit for you, your fans, then your haters, right? So first I edit for me. This is when he's writing, let's say he's working on a credit management ebook, for example, quote unquote. By the way, make sure you get yours, but first you edit for me, like what looks good to me. Then you proofread it again. Okay, so I edit for my fans. What would be most enjoyable to and helpful to my fans? That's where we are currently at with the ebook. Like, what would be the easiest way to digest this for my fans? The first version was like, this is edit for me. But then I'm using the example of the ebook. But then I was like, well, some of these terms might be, you know, foreign to somebody who's new to this. So now I edit for my fans. Third edit. Third, I edit for my haters. What would my distractors try to pick apart, discredit, or make fun of? And finding those things, like what would somebody try to pick apart, discredit, or make fun of? And the best way to figure that out is have somebody else read it and tell you what they think about it. have somebody else to review it and tell you what they think about it, and find a person that the person that you know will be the most critical with your work, right? Neil Strauss always uses an example to elaborate on this. Like, I always use Eminem as an example, the rapper. Eminem as an example. He impersonates in his songs, he impersonates the critics and then answers them. There's nothing that people have said about him that isn't already answered or accomplished in some self-aware way. So I really want to answer the critics, their questions, and their critiques in a way that is still fun and entertaining. That's the idea of hater-proofing it. So essentially, hater-proofing, like pointing out what they possibly already say, so they have nothing else to say. If you have watched Eminem's movie, 8 Mile or something like that, if you are familiar with that, you remember the last scene, and when they were like, "How are you going to win this battle?" and how he won the battle was just basically pointing out every possible thing that the other person could possibly say about him. That takes that takes a form of self-confidence, but for two, you disarm the next person, because now they're like, well, what else do I have to say? I don't have anything to say. So that's foolproof or hater-proofing your haters. So when you put something out, you're already hater-proofing, like, hey, I'm not the best speaker. I'm not the most savvy speaker. I know this. Me saying that, I'm getting better, but me saying that at least makes it aware. So if a hater gets on here and says, "Oh, you know you don't speak well," all the people who follow me know he's said that. He's already said that. So what are you trying to say? Like, in hater proofing it, like, it has no effect because he's even said that out of his own mouth. So you're adding no value here. Do you belong in the digital REM community at all? So with that being said, let's just continue on, right? I think y'all kind of get it, right? And you can hater proof people in your life in general, all across the board. So really just getting rocking like that, right? And really, with that being said, if you hater proof, don't give your haters that much attention. Like, you already hater proofed them, don't even give them attention. When they try to get on and get their attention, a lot of the times they just need attention. They just seek attention. So just don't satisfy them with the attention, and then they'll fade away. Because again, you've already addressed things that they probably already bringing up. You would go ahead and address them, like, boom, that's me. Yeah, that's me, and I'm getting better every day. That's me though. And then just move on like what it is, right? So let's continue on. So this is funny. So this is like a little quote that he has. Writer's block, this is for writers. Writer's block does not actually exist. Writer's block is almost like the equivalent of impotence. It's performance pressure you put on yourself that keeps you from doing something you naturally should be able to do, right? One of the best pieces of advice I've received from writing this mantra is 2 crappy pages a day. It kind of sounds familiar though. When I tell you to do that one thing that takes you closer to your goals every day, that one thing says the same thing. Like, even if you have writer's block, write 2 crappy pages per day. And when he says crappy pages, what is happening is you're taking the pressure off yourself. At the end of the day, you're like, I could do 2 crappy pages. I could do 2 crappy pages for sure. So you write 2 crappy pages, but more than likely, it will end up being more than 2 pages. You'll end up writing 5 pages or 6 pages or 20 pages because you're just going with the flow by starting with that one thing. Like, I'm gonna go into this like I'm just write 2 crappy pages. That, that's the least I can do. And then when you get into it and you get into the flow, you write 20 pages, like, oh, well, I did a lot more than I expected to do. So with that being said, like I always say, it kind of reminds me, do that one thing that takes you closer to your goals, like I always say, right? We're going to continue on. The intimidated to pick up the phone. They wanted salespeople. So he's using an example of IBM, right? Here in IBM as an example of their like 2 crappy pages, right? IBM had a sales team, and they were like, as far as IBM in general, they were just like this monster of a company for the longest amount of time. Like, he called them the 800-pound gorilla across several different industries for decades, right? but they had a great sales team. And why their sales team was so great is IBM made quotas really low. They made their quotas really low. So I don't know if you ever been on like a sales team, but some sales teams, they like, oh, if you get 10 sales, then we'll give you a bonus, or whatever the case may be. They probably put their quotas like, if you get 2 sales or 1 sale, you know, we're celebrating, we're gonna, you know, give you the bells and whistles and do everything for you, right? Or you know how they do. So they made their quotas very low. Salespeople, for the salespeople to not be intimidated to pick up the phone. They want the salespeople to build momentum and then overshoot their quotas and their goals. So really setting the bar real low. Once you set the bar real low, that's that again, that one thing that gives you enough courage to do at least that one thing, because you set the bar so low that you end up overshooting that one little thing that you even set up to do anyway, right? So overshoot their quotas and goals. Translated to, this is him talking, translated to writing, I was told my goal should be 2 crappy pages a day. That's it. If you hit 2 crappy pages, even if you never use them, you can feel successful for the day. Sometimes you barely eke out 2 pages, and they are truly terrible. But at least 50% of the time, you'll produce perhaps 5, 10, or even more. In the rare miracle day, 20 pages. And he says, draft ugly and edit pretty. So having it as rough, it's a rough draft. Draft ugly, then go back in and refine it and edit it pretty at the end of the day. Boom. All right. So we're going to continue on. I think y'all kind of get where I'm going with that, right? I really do think y'all get where I'm going with that. So this is Neil talking about interviewing other people, right? This is something I'm gonna have to get more familiar with when I start to bring on people, and so they can share their industries and share, you know, their stories and things like that. But I definitely think it's very valuable, right? So Neil is a seasoned interviewer and taught me the golden key early. The golden key being open up and be vulnerable with the person you're going to interview before you start. It works incredibly well, right? So let's continue on. I'm gonna just continue on the highlights. I'll instead ask, he like just kind of fill them out at first before they even start the interview. Like, yeah, I want you to feel comfortable. I'm not here to make you look bad or anything like that. I want you to feel comfortable and kind of relate to them, find points of relation where y'all can relate to each other. But then, one of the keys he likes to do often is like, I'll instead genuinely ask for advice, but not interrupting things along the lines of, you're so good at X and I'm really struggling with Y. I want to respect your time and do this interview, of course, but someday I'd love to ask you about that. Okay, listeners often ask me, how do you build a rapport so quickly? And it's really that above part, like really asking that person, whoever you're interviewing, like they have valuable information, no matter who they are. They have valuable information. Like, this is something I admire about you. I really want to ask you about this, and it might not be for this interview, but I want to ask you about this because I really value who you are, your perspective, and everything else. That makes the interviewee feel comfortable with you. In general, like, I feel comfortable with you. At least you acknowledge me for who I am and what I can bring to the table, and you see the value in me, so that makes me feel comfortable with you, right? So part 2. I preemptively address common concerns during those 5 or 10 minutes. This is before the interview. I've been messed up by media in the past, and I want my guests to know: A, I know how terrible that is, and B, my interview is a safe space in which to be open and experiment, among other points that I cover. So again, he's really getting into like where he wants his interviewee to be. Like, this is an open, safe place for you to be yourself, really put your message out there, really let people know who you are, genuinely, not to be scared or anything like that, because the ultimate goal is to put you in the best light. My goal is to put you in the best light possible so you can get more followers, get more people on board with what you're doing, your initiative, right? And he really just, again, conveys that. I highlighted multiple things, but at the end of the day, it's really just saying the same exact thing. And I guess I'll just read through all of them and just go back to back. I'm not going to explain them because, again, that was the preface of what I'm about to read right now. This isn't a gotcha show. It's intended to make you look. It's intended to make you look good. That's one. I asked, let's flash forward to a week or month after the interview comes out. What would make it a home run for you? What does successful look like? Like, he's asking a person, like, in this interview, what does success look like? After we're done with this, what do you see as a successful interview, as far as what this will look like? What results it will bring to you? What is successful to you? And asking, again, even just asking these questions from the interviewee's point of view, is like, man, they really trying to push the same thing I'm trying to push. They're trying to help me, and that really built a rapport with that person, right? I ask, is there anything you'd prefer not to talk about? I'm sure a lot of interviewees definitely have that portion, like, don't ask me about this, don't ask me about that, and that's understandable, especially when you're higher up in the ranks of celebrity. You know, you kind of be like, don't ask me about certain things, right? So this is one of the things I definitely want to take notes of, especially when I start to build on my team and start the interview process, right? He says I hired a senior researcher to read my transcripts and help me improve. So essentially what I'm gathering is he writes down the whole interview, like the questions he's going to ask and read and everything, like the script he's going to ask before he even gets on the mic or gets on the camera that he's going to ask the interviewer. But he allows his senior researcher to read the transcripts to make sure there are good questions, for one. And then he gives it to his interviewee to review, so they can review and see what questions he's going to ask, and being very transparent of what's going to happen here. Like, this is what's going to happen. And you can do this. You can send this email out, like the transcript, out to the person, you know, a week before, and let them give you feedback on that, right? So again, I think that's definitely a key, by just hiring a researcher to help you with your transcripts, and then sending that out to, like, this is what we're going to ask you. This is the questions we're going to ask you. And then that gives the person who you're interviewing enough time to come up with the best answer that they could possibly come up with, instead of kind of hitting them, I would say catching them off guard, but, you know, giving them time enough to dissect the answer, or, you know, come up with the answer that they want to come up with, put it like that. I'll say I always suggest being as raw and open as possible. My fans love tactical details and stories. We can always cut stuff out, but I can't add interesting stuff in later. So really that boils down to what we were talking about before. Building rapport with the person you're interviewing. If you build that rapport with them, you start to get all the nice, you know, I wouldn't call them crazy, but the nice stories where that shows their personality and things like that. Because after the interview is over, after recording is over, it's over. You can edit all of that stuff out later, but you can't go back in and put it in. So you want to get as much footage and much kind of data that you can work with, so you can give the best impression of what, you know, who that person is, so they can give the best impression of what they're trying to achieve. Going back to, if you were a few months from now, you know, what would a good interview, what would a successful interview look like? But if you have more footage and more, you know, they're sharing their stories and sharing multiple stories and sharing like offhand stories just to show their personality, now you have more footage to work with, as far as conveying who they are to their audience and to your audience at the same time, right? Boom. Do you have any? And Neil asks, do you have any quotes that you live life? Do you have any quotes that you live your life by or think of often? And his answer is, be open to whatever comes next. And I'm gonna tweet that, and that's gonna be the quote that I'm gonna post on my IG. Be open to whatever comes next. No matter what the situation may be, the right course of action is always compassion and love. So I'm gonna tweet that second one, but I'm gonna, you know, repost that first one on IG. So really, that's the end of the chapter of all the highlights with Neil Strauss. That was a good one. If you know Neil Strauss, get familiar. So he's definitely a cool guy. Let me actually not drink that right now. So with that being said, my throat is super dry. So with that being said, I hope y'all all enjoyed the live at lunch. Thank you for chiming in. We're about 30 minutes in, so a little longer than usual, but we had a lot of highlights and a lot of value to get out of that chapter. So we had to cover. We had to take the extra time to cover that. Like I couldn't skip past that. So with that being said, like I always say, do that one thing that takes you closer to your goals today. Like Neil even say, write them two horrible pages, whatever the case. Do that one thing that takes you closer to your goals today. And that one thing might turn into 3 things. Or that, that one thing might turn into 5 things. Or that one thing might be that one thing that's just that ugly duckling. Like, man, at least I tried, so I can try it again tomorrow and, build the momentum up. So just really take the pressure off yourself by just doing the one thing that takes you closer to your goals. And at the end of the day, all of y'all, just stay blessed, and give God the glory. Later, y'all. Peace.